her own defense, Sakina Thompson told jurors she was jealous of the relationship her boyfriend had with the victim, Kayla Hodgson.
A little, I guess you could say, jealous and like insecure.
It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another episode of Hood Tales. In this video, let's take it to Tamarack, Florida, to tell a story of how jealousy and obsession left one woman gone and another who will never walk free again. But before we get into this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss any future uploads. Also, this video is sponsored by me, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and my YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out. Look out for the link to it in the comments. Stay tuned until the end to hear the full story. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. In the summer of 2022, a young woman boarded a plane from New York to Florida, carrying not only a suitcase, but deep emotional turmoil. What started as heartbreak and jealousy would spiral into one of the most shocking love triangle tragedies South Florida had seen in years. This is a story of Sakina Thompson and Kayla Hodgson, two women whose lives collided through love, betrayal, and obsession, and whose encounter ended in irreversible consequences. Before headlines and handcuffs, Sakina Thompson was known as a confident, outgoing woman from Long Island, New York. Friends described her as vibrant and ambitious, someone who took pride in her appearance, loved to travel, and wasn't afraid to speak her mind. But beneath that ambition was a woman navigating emotional trauma. She had recently ended a complicated relationship, one that left behind unresolved feelings and unfinished conversations. So when she discovered that her former partner had moved on, it struck a nerve that would soon unravel everything. Kayla Hodgson, on the other hand, was just 23 years old, full of life and potential. She was a well-known bottle waitress in South Florida's nightlife scene, beloved for her kind heart and contagious smile. Her friends described her as the type of woman who lit up every room she walked into. She was confident, social, and hardworking, the kind of energy that drew people toward her. But that same confidence and her connection to Sakina's ex-boyfriend would place her unknowingly in the center of a storm brewing miles away in New York. At some point, Sakina discovered that Kayla was dating her former partner. What followed was a chain of tense exchanges online, subtle messages, emotional confrontations, and jealousy that simmered beneath the surface. When Kayla eventually blocked Sakina on Instagram, it seemed like a small digital act, but for Sakina, it was a breaking point. In her testimony later, she admitted feeling rejected, hurt, and angry. She couldn't stop thinking about Kayla, the woman who now had the man she once loved. Her emotions spiraled between heartbreak and obsession. And then came a decision that changed everything. She booked a flight to Florida. On July 13th, 2022, surveillance footage showed Sakina arriving at Kayla's apartment complex in Tamarack around 4 a.m. According to Sakina, she came woman to woman to have a calm conversation, to clear the air, and maybe to find closure. But things didn't go as planned. According to Sakina's own account, what began as a talk quickly turned into a confrontation. She claimed Kayla became aggressive and that words turned into a physical altercation. At the time, Sakina was 2 months pregnant. She testified that she felt threatened, that Kayla had struck her and even used part of a glass hookah during the fight. In that moment, she said she blacked out, acting on instinct, fear, and adrenaline. When she regained awareness, Kayla was unresponsive. The apartment, once filled with words and emotions, had gone silent. Sakina said she panicked. She cleaned parts of the scene with Lysol wipes and paper towels, changed into Kayla's clothing, and left. She flew back to New York the next day. Hours later, Broward County deputies responded to a call on Northwest 57th Street. Kayla had been found gone inside her apartment with over a dozen cut wounds, and investigators began piecing together the puzzle. Through witness statements, travel records, and surveillance footage, detectives identified Sakina Thompson as a person of interest. A warrant for her arrest was issued, and weeks later, she was located and taken into custody in Springfield Gardens, Queens. She was extradited back to Florida to face charges related to the incident. For months, Kayla's family and friends waited for answers and for justice. 3 years later, in a Broward County courtroom, the full story unfolded. The prosecution painted a picture of premeditation, that Sakina flew to Florida with clear intent to confront and harm her romantic rival. They said she disguised herself, used a fake rideshare account, and arrived at Kayla's home in the early hours with one goal in mind. The defense, however, told a different story, that Sakina had gone there out of heartbreak, not hatred, that she didn't come with a weapon, and what happened inside that apartment was not planned, but a chaotic emotional spiral between two women in pain. Sakina took to the stand in her own defense. She described the moment everything went wrong. She spoke about her feelings of jealousy and insecurity,
A little, I guess you could say, jealous and insecure.
being attacked, about the fear for her unborn child, and about losing control. When asked why she didn't call police afterwards, she told the courtroom she was scared. She said, "I was pregnant and I just hurt somebody. I didn't know what to do." But the evidence and the number of wounds on Kayla's body told a different story to jurors. After deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict for first-degree charges. As the verdict was read, Kayla's family wept, both from relief and heartbreak. They spoke about her laughter, her light, and the hole left in their lives. For Sakina, it was the end of freedom and the beginning of a lifetime to reflect on how heartbreak turned into devastation. She could face life in prison or the ultimate punishment with her own life. May Kayla Hodgson continue to rest in peace. My belated condolences to her family. I send them my well wishes, and I hope that the verdict has brought them some closure. What makes this story so haunting isn't just what happened inside that Tamarack apartment. It's what led up to it. Two women, both connected through the same man, became enemies in a story fueled by ego, pride, and pain. Jealousy can distort reality. It can make someone believe that another person's happiness is the reason for their misery. But the truth is, no one wins in a situation like this. Not Kayla, who lost her future, not Sakina, who lost her freedom, not even the man at the center of it all, who was left to live with the aftermath of two lives destroyed. This story reminds us that unchecked emotion can be just as dangerous as any weapon. That momentary rage, that need to confront, to prove, to talk woman to woman, can end in tragedy that lasts forever. Kayla Hodgson's loved ones continue to honor her memory, remembering her not for how her story ended, but how brightly she lived. And as for Sakina Thompson, her story now stands as a cautionary tale of heartbreak, jealousy, and the irreversible price of losing control. Fam, I'm going to leave the rest up to you. What are your thoughts on this tragic situation? Let me know in the comments below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of Hood Tales. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, consider liking and sharing. Subscribe for more stories like this and for the stories behind the headlines. Because behind them all are lives forever changed. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times. Until next time.